It has been a really weird year here in southern Manitoba. We've had sub-zero temperatures to +30. We've had hail and tornadoes and thunderstorms, and it has rained almost every day for the last 2 weeks. So the garden is looking a little tired, and so is the gardener, if I'm being honest. But let's do a little tour of the garden to see what's going on. So there have been a few changes since the last time I did a garden tour. I put in this beautiful arched trellis gate or arbor a few weeks ago, and it has added such a nice touch to the entrance of my garden. So this is how you now enter the space. And then on either side, I've added a above and beyond climbing rose. So these roses are hardy in zone 3 and they're also climbers. So I'm hoping that in the next few years, this entire arbor will be covered in roses. And then I just picked up this beautiful Lisianthus from a local garden center a few weeks ago, and it is absolutely stunning. Let's start off with the 6 new raised beds that I built half last year and half this year. In this first raised bed here, I have all of my peppers. So we have a lot of jalapenos growing, and these are a combination of Black Magic jalapeno and I think Craig's Grande. Let me just pull these weeds so we can see the tag. Craig's Grande jalapeno as well. So these ones don't have any jalapenos on them yet, but the Black Magic jalapenos are absolutely going wild. We also have a bunch of shishito peppers. These I'm going to harvest pretty soon. These are looking really great. Because of the cool temps that we've had over the last few weeks, I think the peppers are a little slow, but still pretty happy with their progress so far. So this here is my brassica bed, and this has been by far the best brassica year that I have ever had. I have been harvesting a head of broccoli and or cauliflower almost every day for the last 2 weeks. And everything is just kind of starting to slow down now, but I'll still show you what's going on under here. So in this back row, I'm trying to see if I can find the labels. It's so overgrown. Okay, so over here I had the Aspa-Brock broccolini, which is this one here. So these I've just been harvesting and then roasting in the oven with salt and pepper. I also blanched and froze a bunch because, like I said, I've been harvesting so much of this over the last few weeks. I also have this purple sprouting broccolini. This is called Burgundy, and this is in the middle of this row here. So there's quite a bit of this as well. But like I said, I've also been harvesting all of this. This does turn green once it's cooked, so it loses its beautiful purple color, but it's been really delicious. And then this here is the Green Magic broccoli. I've harvested all of the main heads, so now we just have a couple side shoots coming up, but this has done really well in my garden this year. The mosquitoes are absolutely relentless right now, so if you see me swatting and scratching, it's because I'm struggling. So please don't mind. But anyways, I've had one of the best cabbage years that I've ever had this year. Look at this beauty. This here, look at my hand for size, is a farro cabbage. So these 5 here in the front are all the farro cabbages. This one is obviously doing the best, but these ones aren't doing too bad either. They're nice and firm still, so I'm still letting them grow. Another really nice one there. I can't find any of the name tags, but I think this one is called a baby pixie cabbage, so it's slightly smaller. Actually, this one's pretty big too, but they are also looking really good. So really happy with my brassica bed this year. So these brassicas I planted out on May 5th, so they've gone through temperatures down to -7, and they also went through 2 weeks of +30. And I had them under a frost cloth, the frost cloth that I just took off. So I think that helped for both situations. It helped with the really cold, but it also provided them with a little bit of shade during the really hot weather. And that frost cloth also helped prevent any flea beetles from getting in. I do have another area that I'll show you in a second that was not protected, or not as well protected from the flea beetles, and they did absolute damage to them. So this frost cloth and making sure that it was installed really well seemed to help. So I think that that's why these brassicas turned out so beautiful this year. So this bed here has been a little bit of a bust. This first area here is where I planted all of my ranunculus. I have one flower in bloom, which is looking really beautiful, but everything else seems to be pretty slow going. And then beside it, I have all of my spinach, which I'm actually letting go to seed so I can collect the seeds for next year, or actually this fall. I think the ranunculus and the spinach really struggled with our plus 30-degree weather that we had for about 2 weeks. So I think that's why the spinach bolted and the ranunculus is a little bit slow to grow. I will say my friend that lives not too far from me has had so much luck with her ranunculus, so maybe it's just me. It could be a gardener related issue and not necessarily the weather. But at the end of this bed, I have a beautiful patch of potatoes. These are a variety called Colomba, and they are an early variety, which is why you can see that they're already starting to flower and put on their little potato berries. Then over in this bed, we have a mix of artichokes, carrots, okra, and then this is another batch of brassicas that I had planted, which I did not cover properly. So the flea beetles caused a lot of damage when they were pretty young, and then they started to bolt in the heat. So I just let them bolt. I'm gonna collect these seeds and replant these in the fall. So last year I had a really good artichoke year. I had one plant, or I shouldn't say really good. I had planted a bunch of artichokes in ground and they did not do well, but I had planted one in one of my raised garden beds and it absolutely thrived. I think I ended up getting 6 or 7 artichokes off of the one plant, so that was amazing. I was really happy with that. And then this year I planted way more, so I'm hoping for a really big artichoke harvest this year. This is a variety called Imperial Star, and it is specifically bred for areas with shorter growing seasons because artichokes can take a long time to mature. So this is a perfect variety for anyone else in a colder climate. I just took a little rain break because the rain is once again ruining my gardening experience, but at least I haven't had to water the garden a ton this year, which is obviously really nice. I've been calling this area here my tomato alley. I have tomatoes on both sides, if I'm not mistaken, 15 on each side, so 30 per bed. And they're looking really good. I came through and started pruning these yesterday. And you can see that there's some tomatoes, if my camera will focus, there we go. There are some tomatoes starting to grow. Because we've had so much rain, I came back and pruned relatively hard. So I tried to prune any foliage about a foot up the main stem. I didn't really remove any suckers. I know a lot of gardeners remove the suckers when they're pruning their tomatoes, but I don't, because the suckers are where your tomatoes are produced, and if I remove the suckers, that means I'll get less tomatoes. And this might not be as important if you live in an area that has a super long growing season where you can get another batch of tomatoes later on, but because my growing season is so short, I really have to capitalize on the tomatoes that I do get. So I left most of the suckers intact. Of course, if there were a couple plants that had, 5 or 6 suckers coming off the main stem, I did remove 1 or 2 of them, but for the most part, I kept the suckers intact and removed mostly the foliage. And this was mostly a preventative measure because we've had such a wet spring. I didn't want any rainwater or water to splash onto the foliage and cause any fungal or bacterial diseases. So this is just a way to prevent diseases from spreading on my tomatoes. So we're coming up on the onion bed here. This bed is looking really great. The onions are starting to bulb. This bed I also planted in early May. So they have also gone through some pretty hard frost and some pretty warm weather. And they really look great. This year I did an experiment where I trimmed half of my onion seedlings that I started in February indoors, and then I left half untrimmed just to see whether one produced bigger onion bulbs than the other, because you often see online that if you trim your onion bulbs, you get larger onions, but the science actually doesn't say that, so I wanted to do my own experiment. Here I have my trimmed onions, and here I have my untrimmed onions. And honestly, about a week ago, you could see a slight, subtle difference in size just on the foliage, but I feel like they've evened out quite a bit, so I guess we'll see what they look like when I actually pull them at the end of the summer. I'm almost embarrassed to show you this strawberry patch. So last year in August, or maybe end of July, there was a wasp's nest right in here. So I could not get into this space and weed it. And because of that, the weeds went to seed. And now this whole bed is just a weedy mess. And the strawberries are looking like they need some more nutrients, but I have not gotten in here to fertilize. So this strawberry patch isn't looking too good, but if I come over here, this is my in-ground strawberry patch and it is looking much better. I just harvested most of the strawberries in here yesterday and made some jam, so there's just a few ripe ones right now. But this patch has given me about 4 quarts every 2 days, which is amazing. This is my Barlotti bean patch here, and all the beans are starting to climb up my trellis, which is amazing. These beans do so well in my garden. I usually get about 2 or 3 jars full per year, and they store really well, they hydrate really well, and they taste delicious. So these are definitely going to be a staple in my garden for forever. They just really do well, and they are very much a set it and forget it crop. I don't really have to do much to them once I have them planted, which is great, especially when you have a big garden. Having some crops that you don't really have to fuss about is so nice. I have a bunch of squash grown along the side so that they can grow up, and then a few on the edges that will sprawl. And they have started to climb up already. This one even has a pumpkin on it. It's getting pretty tall already. So this is my garlic bed. There's some poppies growing in here as well, and some lisianthus, and of course some weeds, and a few little mushrooms there. So behind me here I have 3 beds. These I actually just made this year. These 2 I tilled, so the one behind me here and this one I tilled and then added some better soil on top, just like right on top of the dirt. But this one I did the cardboard method where I laid a layer of cardboard down and then put the new soil on top. I just wanted to see which one would do better because I wasn't sure if I should till new dirt into the soil, especially because my soil is so clay heavy, or if I just put cardboard on top, if it would be able to mix in eventually with like the earthworms and stuff. So I'm doing a little experiment to see which method works best. So this bed here is all corn, and then there's some little trellises here that have some sweet peas growing. They're not looking super good, but they're there. And then these 2 beds are all cut flowers. So you can see here that the sweet peas, they're here, but they don't seem to want to climb up my lovely bamboo stakes that I have here. So they're kind of just in a clump. But overall, the corn's looking pretty good. I've been coming in and fertilizing probably every week because I know that corn is a very heavy feeder. Here's some more sweet peas here. And then in terms of cut flowers, I have everything from zinnias over here, sunflowers. It's kind of crazy to see the difference between this bed here and how big everything is compared to this one. This one seems to be a lot slower going than the ones that are planted directly in the ground, but with just better soil, which is really interesting. Like, look at the difference between these sunflowers planted on the same day. But the cosmos are starting to bloom. Look at how pretty these are. Definitely one of my favorite flowers. These are a variety called zinnia, or Xenia, Xenia, if I'm not mistaken. I also have some eucalyptus growing. It's very tiny still. Oh, but this one's actually looking pretty good. More cosmos that are about to bloom. This one did bloom, but it has fallen over. This is one called apricot something. It's very, very pretty. And then I have these dahlias, which I got from a garden center, which I've been absolutely obsessed with. Look how pretty these are. These ones are pretty far gone, but they are really pretty when they bloom. This week I just learned about asparagus windrock. So I came in and staked my asparagus. If you don't know what this is, it's essentially when the wind knocks or rocks your asparagus ferns back and forth and the soil around the base of your asparagus loosens, and then it can actually damage the roots and crowns of your asparagus so that next year you might not get as good of a crop. So I came and I tied everything in pretty well, I think, so not everything is falling over. This fern here was completely horizontal. So Everything is upright, and hopefully that prevents any more wind rock from happening. This is also my carrot bed, and I will say that this so far seems to be my worst carrot year ever. I couldn't find unpelleted carrot seeds, so I used pelleted seeds, and I feel like they just did not have as good of germination as the unpelleted seeds, and I have heard that that's usually the case. So I will never be buying pelleted carrot seeds again because I'm really sad that I'm not going to get a big carrot harvest that I'm used to. It's starting to rain a little bit harder now, so let's finish the day in the greenhouse and get a little bit of reprieve from the rain and the mosquitoes. Just to give you an overall sense of what the greenhouse is currently looking like, the tomatoes are much bigger in here than they are in my garden beds outside. I have to do some weeding in here, so don't judge. But overall, everything looks really good. In the back corner here, I have some muncher cucumbers. So these two are both muncher cucumbers. These three are all Hale's Best cantaloupes. We have a Moon and Stars watermelon, and I just love the leaves on this. One thing that I'm noticing on the peppers grown in the greenhouse is that they're all getting this, I don't know if this is blossom end rot, but I've had several peppers in here that have had this brown marking on them, and I'm not sure what's causing it. If you have any ideas, please let me know in the comments. So this pepper here is so stunning. It's called a candy choco cherry pepper, and its leaves are variegated. Like, look how beautiful that is. And the peppers are also variegated, if you can see that there. But I've been getting the same blossom end rot or whatever it is on these peppers, so I've had to pick a few, but haven't even been able to enjoy them yet. All right, I think this rain and the mosquitoes that are also in my greenhouse are signaling to me that it's time to go inside. So I hope you enjoyed this garden tour. If you did, please make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. I hope you have a wonderful week in the garden.